Ta-da! Here's the final product. This is it. This is what I'm going to show you how to make. I'll show you all the steps it's going to take to make this beautiful, beautiful room. And you're going to be really impressed with it. You can see how nice everything turned out. And anyway, stay tuned. Okay, the first thing we have to do is remove the baseboard before we can take up the old floor. So we got ourselves a scraper, a hammer, some sort of pry bar. You can use a crowbar, or they make a flat bar that's good for prying. And the first thing I do is I usually score along the edge here, just to make sure that I don't rip up a whole bunch of paint when I pry this thing up. Well, on longer ones, you'd need the crowbar. Okay, I bought this thing to remove linoleum, and I was using a hand scraper, and man, it was a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the linoleum into strips and take up a strip. So let's just start here by taking off a cut a strip. Well, boy, that sure is a lot faster than trying to use a scraper to take this stuff off. I'll tell you that, a lot better. Okay, I used my scraper to scrape off the old vinyl, and it's sure nice having the multi-tool scrape it. Now, there's another thing that you could do, is you can see how this is what they have, an underlayment. So this is like some, maybe 3/16 or maybe 5/32 inch thick plywood. You can kind of see it's right there. Right there, you can kind of see the actual underlayment there. And boy, I tried prying this up. I think this stuff was glued down too. But so we have two different choices. Either you scrape up all the vinyl, and it's going to leave some little crap down here, but I mean, it looks ugly, but it's really not that big a deal. Or you can take up the old underlayment, which is maybe the professional way to do it. And the way you do that is you measure how thick this is with the vinyl on top of it. And then you get a circular saw and you adjust the depth so it's exactly that depth. Cut this thing up into big squares and pry everything up. And that's the technique there. But it looked like, both things were a lot of work. But I chose to leave the old underlayment on there. But the best thing would have been to peel up all the underlayment, put new underlayment down there underneath the floor. Kind of did a little dry fit for sizing here. It looks like things will work out pretty good, and I got like about a ½ inch left over. So I think if I just am away from the wall, 1/4 inch on the one end, and away from... Okay, I snapped the chalk line. And actually on recalc, I did like about 5 3/8. And that'll give me like about a 3/8 inch gap. And should be even on both sides. So you can see where the previous homeowner, the guy I bought this off of, put in a really nice looking wood floor, but he didn't measure it very well. So let me just see, look what happened here. You can see this little gap right there? Ooh, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And look at that. I mean, you can kind of see how it's really nice and wide over there. I don't know if you can really, hopefully you can see it. And then it just narrows down to like nothing. And talk about poor measuring. That's kind of what happens when you rely on the walls. You have to really be careful and do your measuring very well. Make sure that you get everything even. A lot of people start down the middle. Okay, the first row I have to face nail because the floor nailer can't fit up against the wall for the first course. So I got a brad nailer. And just to make sure I'm putting down subfloor adhesive, nobody else does this. This is just something I do because I want the floor to be nice and solid and not creak. And this first row's just got, and I got the chalk line, and I got the edge right over the middle of the chalk line. So I sight this thing down and make sure it's exactly right. And we kind of tap it in. Looks good. About every 6 inches, and then the face. Yeah, there we go. Well, let's talk about the hero of the day so far, the little hammer that could. Boy, this mallet is really nice. It's got kind of a hard white rubber front, and it's made out of cast iron. And a lot of these little boards don't want to go where they want to go, so you got to give them a whack. You got to give them a whack. This one's right in place, but it actually took a little muscle to get that thing in place. And here's really one of the nicest tools. This is very, very handy. Okay, I made sure my piece of wood was in here really nice with the hammer. This thing's really nice and solid. And now we got our nailer. So you can see there's a white plastic piece in here. You push this thing in here. Let's do it in the middle first. Put this thing in here. And then there's a handle. See, I got my hand on the handle. And you push down, you make sure it's flat there. That's the important thing. You don't want to be messing that up. You got it nice and flat, pushing hard down here. Give this thing a nice solid whack right in the middle. Doesn't have to be that tight. And then, since this is a short piece, maybe one on the end. One on the end. And I figure about maybe once every 6-8 inches on the longer pieces. Every once in a while you have a problem and the nailer doesn't quite work right, and the nail doesn't go in. And I wouldn't say the nailer doesn't work right. You kind of see this thing. Oh boy, that's kind of in there, but anyway. Oh, there we go. Problem fixed. Okay, when we get to door jambs here, we got a little bit of an issue because there'd be a big old gap and we want to get some wood in here. So I've got the easy way now. I used to just take a saw and just like a hand saw and cut through here, and it'd take like a minute or two. But now I bought this new oscillating vibratory tool with a saw blade on the end, and I have an old piece of this piece of wood is damaged, so I'm going to use this piece of wood as a guide. So let's just give it a try. It's just that easy. Oh man, look how nice that turned out. I cut a 1/2 inch notch and then took it out, and it looks perfect. Man, that's nice. There are other things you can do for transitions. I really liked making this nice wood transition, but you can buy T-molding, that's in wood or of a similar thing, or there's a transition. There's like a thing that would go on the end that they sold for like a lot of money at Lumber Liquidators, and then you could maybe cut that off to get it the right height. You can get a piece of metal that'd be like a carpet to tile transition that would go on there. There's a lot you could do. At the profile of the wood, you can kind of see where I put a notch in here, and this will mate to my tile floor. So the tile will go underneath here. Then we got a nice 45 coming up to it, and that'll go over top the tile. Let's make a nice little transition. On this side, we've got a notch, and it's just set up so that the tongues will go into the notch, and everything will be the same height. So, like I say, this is the hardest part of the whole project. Now, here's what we used to make it. We got the router and the various different router bits. You can see I have a little bearing. You can see this one's the rabbet. It just makes a square a channel, and you have to make sure you get the height, the right height, to where it'll be the proper depth for the tongues to slide into it. And of course, it's setting on a table saw, and I had to actually buy a table saw for this project. And then we got some urethane. After you're all done, you use the polyurethane varnish, and then it looks really nice. There is the finished transition. You can see I put down some lots of glue. I want to make sure that thing doesn't creak or move around. And then I used an 18 gauge brad nailer. Got some 2-inch long nails there. And every 6 inches put some in there. Kind of see, it's kind of what it looks like with the brad on there. Let's get a better look at that edge. Anyway, it's going to look beautiful. Okay, now we have another situation. I'm on the other end of the room now, and the nail gun won't work. I can't even get this close in here, and there's no way I can hit it with the hammer because I'm too close to the cabinetry or too close to the wall. So as a solution, I've got my 18 gauge brad nailer, and we're very carefully go in at a 45-degree angle right at the top here. 2-inch brads in here. There you go, and every 3 or 4 inches put one in there, and problem solved. Just to show some of the details here, but right here, in order to have the molding come in, I added a 3/4 inch strip, so I had to cut down the groove off of a number of boards to put that in there. And that kind of runs along here. See from this thing, just kind of see, in order to add a little continuity, you can see how I had a longer board, cut it in, put it in. Those are nice little touches. Over here where the threshold is, you can kind of see the threshold looks really nice, but the wall actually curved away. So I actually had to put an extra piece in right here because the molding didn't quite cover the wall there, so I just had to add that little piece there. But here's a little point. You know how I size this to where there's just exactly half inch? See, I got lucky. Normally you don't get lucky. This barely worked. And in most cases, you can see how I started. I kind of left about a 3/8 of an inch gap over there. So for most people, this won't quite work. So the thing you might want to do is you start with something cut in half. So it starts with a half a piece, and then goes through, and then ends on a cut piece. So if you really wanted it to fit, that'd be the way to do it. So anyway, the only thing I have left to do now is scrape up the wall, spackle the wall, put the trim on, and give it a little bit of a paint, and wait till you see the finished product. Well, it's looking good. I got the molding in there. I painted it. Looks really nice. But there's still one more thing I gotta do. Yeah, that molding really makes the room look really, really good. Let's put some putty on there. So I got some walnut putty, and we'll see what happens. Okay, we got our putty. Got a couple tools. Let's have at it. Here's the finished putty gap. This is was a pretty big gap, and now it's all filled in. And I find the best thing is just my fingers. So I roll up a section of this stuff, make like a fine little roll of it, and stuff it in there, and then push it down and wipe it off with my fingers. And I kind of polished up with a little bit of a cloth, and seems to have really hidden it. Here it is, the finished product. Take a look at how beautiful this is. This is American walnut. It's called cabin grade, so you notice all the knot holes, notice all the perfections. Every one of these pieces of wood was a reject. So let's take a look at them. And you can kind of see, like, this one's got too much light on it. This one has too much color variation. You kind of see how there's a mix of the light and the dark together. You know, this one's kind of got some beautiful burling on it, but this one's got a bunch of black on it. Here's some more that's kind of dark with the burling on it. This one's, you can see the sapwood coming through there. This one here, it's all sapwood, but you notice all the knots, some of these things, you can see there's a hole, I don't know if you can see, there's a hole in the floor, actual hole in the floor. There's more knots here. Kind of look like right there. It's a big hole there. You got the light caught, now you can catch it. A little hole there. So all this stuff is all reject. But man, it really turned out nice. Really, really, really nice. And I saved some of the bigger, longer ones for the entryway coming in here. There's going to be a dining room table in here, so nobody's going to be able to see it. So you can see these long ones here and these long ones here. Of course, they had problems. You know, they're a little warped. They had some issues. You know, they wouldn't have given me a nice long one if it was a good piece of wood. But all in all, it turned out really good.